Again, folks, this diagram is what I'll call the coaching kata, and it just contains what I'll call systematic common sense. Once when I was working in a textile mill, I was giving a workshop, and I thought I was being brilliant. And a supervisor was sitting in the back of the room with his arms folded, and he was kind of, doing one of that. And, it's not a good sign. Finally, he spoke up, and he raised his hand. He said, "You know what?" He said, "You ain't said nothing that ain't just systematic common sense." And I thought, yeah, that's absolutely right. I think he was trying to insult me, but I wasn't insulted. I thought that was pretty good. Well, if you go through the steps in this coaching kata, you'll see it's all nothing but systematic common sense. And it's based on, there are a couple assumptions about human beings and the culture of the organization that are important. First of all, you must assume people are good. You must assume that people, given knowledge, given skill, will improve if they can. So when you are coaching, make a positive assumption about the person. 99.9% of people are good people, and they want to perform well. They need help. And you as a coach, you're going to help them. You're not disciplining them. You're not, people can sense your assumption about them. I hate to compare people to dogs, but dogs are pretty smart. If you're a dog person, you know that dogs within seconds can sense danger and can sense when the person is safe and friendly. And it's your tone of voice, it's your body movement, it's your eyes, it's a whole set of things that they can tune right in on and detect danger or safety. Well, human beings also have that sense, maybe not as well refined as a dog, but we do have that sense. And when you make positive assumptions about people, they are more receptive to receiving your feedback and processing your feedback. They can tell that you're trying to help them, you're not trying to hurt them, right? So do that. Meditate on it yourself. As you're approaching somebody to coach them, ask yourself the question, am I really trying to help this person? Do I really believe this person can be helped, wants to be helped, etc.? That's assumption number one. Assumption number two is the behavior of one person influences the group. And this is just group psychology, right? If you can get a few people moving in a direction, whether they're managers or employees, they'll move in that direction. And if we can design a system, which is what we're trying to do, it's a system of teamwork. If we can design a system to reinforce the right behavior, to train people in the right behavior, you don't have to change everybody's behavior. You change a critical few, or there's sort of a tipping point idea. You get enough people moving in a direction, everybody will move in a direction. Okay, let's go through this. Now I want to give you an example that goes way back to the beginning of my career. And my career began in prison. I know it seems unlikely, but it's true. Polk Youth Center in Raleigh, North Carolina had 350 young inmates, and I was hired as the one counselor to counsel 350 young inmates. You think you have a tough job? You try this one. First of all, in a week, you might counsel 40 guys, an hour a person. Now, just those 40 guys, never mind the others, just those 40 guys, you're talking to them 1 hour. Who are they talking to the rest of the time? Well, they're talking to certified, guaranteed criminals, convicted criminals. That's who they are in this prison. Who do you think wins? The criminals affecting their behavior, or you affecting their behavior? I can guarantee you lose this, right? And the problem is the whole nature of the system in prison stinks. And it actually is designed to reinforce the wrong behavior, not the right behavior. So I got a government grant to take over another prison of 150 young inmates, and we set up a behavior modification process, what was called a token economy. The idea being, we set up a checking account system. I had First Union National Bank come in. We had checks for every inmate, individual inmate with their name on it. For many guys, this was the first checkbook, or the only checkbook they'd ever had. Well, the only one with their name on it. Some had some others. We paid them in points. We didn't have any real money, but we paid them in points. They deposited their check in the bank. We had a prison bank. And then we had 4 dormitories: a quality dorm, a quality dorm, a luxury dorm, a standard dorm, and an efficiency dorm. And they paid rent based on the quality of the dormitory they could afford to live in. So we ran an economy. Now, that worked. That was terrific. But what I recognized with some of these guys is there were some very fundamental skills they didn't have, like interviewing for a job. So here's what I did. I had an office, had a desk, there was a door over there, and I put a video camera up. And I called a guy in, let's call him John. I called him in, I say, John, when you get out of here a year from now, whenever it is, do you want to get a job? Obviously, the right answer is, yes, I want to get a job. And I'd say, well, do you know how to get a job? I mean, have you ever gone and applied for a job and gone for a job interview? Many of them had never gone for a job interview. And maybe they had. But I said, would you like to get really good at that? Because if you got really good at interviewing for a job, you'd be more likely to get the job, right? And if you felt like you were good at it, you'd be more likely to go to interviews, right? So how would you like to practice that? And he said, okay, I guess so. Really didn't know how to answer that. So I said, look, here's what we're going to do. I'm the personnel manager for a mobile home manufacturing plant, which they had in North Carolina. And we have a job, on the assembly line, hammering nails, working on the mobile homes. And what I want you to do is I want you to go out the door, and I want you to knock on the door, and I'm going to invite you to come in, and you're going to sit down here, and I'm going to interview you. And I'm going to video it, and let's see what it looks like. Let's see how it goes. Guy says, okay, doesn't know what to make of this really. But he goes out, closes the door, and I say, okay, John, let's go. Then I hear one tap on the door. Tap. Hardly hear it. I say, okay, John, come on in. He opens the door slowly. He kind of looks around. And I said, come on in, have a seat. And you know what he does? First of all, they always had their shirt hanging out and their belt unbuckled. I don't know what that was about, but anyway, style, okay? And they kind of walk like this, and they bopped, And they don't walk in a straight line. They kind of, kind of snaked, around to get to me. And he'd come out and he'd stand in front of me, and I stuck my arm out to shake his hand. He looks at it like he hadn't seen this before. You heard her close to the vest, close to the vest. I kind of shake his hand, and I say, "Have a seat." He sits down on the side of my desk. Puts his elbows on the desk, he leans over. He's still bopping, He looks around the room. He's not looking at me. He looks around the room. Okay, time out. That's all you need to know. I show him the videotape back. And I said, John, would you hire this guy? I mean, if you just put yourself in the position of this personnel manager, what do you think about this guy? Would you hire him? And you know what he said? He said, I don't think so. He doesn't look like he wants the job. Good. That's a really smart observation. And I said, well, what is he doing? I mean, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like he doesn't really want the job? And if he did what, would he want the job? And he said, well, maybe it's the way he walks. I said, I don't care what he says. There are like 10 or 15 different behaviors in that chain from the time he knocked on the door to the time he was sitting looking at me or not looking at me. And I don't care which one he identifies. Any one is good, right? So he says, maybe if he walked, in a straight line. I said, great, let's try it again, right? Tries again. You know what happens now? Not only does he walk in a straight line, but his shoulders are more. And he also taps twice. And now when he opens the door, he opens it a little more, assertively. Long story short, in 1 hour, I can get this guy. First of all, physically, these guys can do anything, right? These guys are athletes, for heaven's sakes. He can walk in a straight line. He can stand straight. He can stick his arm out. And I practice that with him. I'd say, Look, I say, which one would you hire? This guy or this guy? You'd hire this guy, right? So get hired. Stick your arm out, shake hands firmly, sit down, sit up straight, look me in the eye, right? Don't look around the room. None of that cares. The only thing that matters is me, right? So you look at me, right? Look me in the eye. And we would practice this. I'm telling you, in 1 hour, I could get this guy tap, tap, opening the door, walking in a straight line, standing up straight, looking at me, sit down on a seat, sit upright, look me in the eye. I can do that with virtually any inmate in 1 hour. Now, this was not some great psychological thing. I didn't talk about his ego and his id and his attitudes and whether his mother loved him and forget all that crap, right? I just talked about the specific, pinpointed behavior, right? I made a positive assumption that he could do this, and he can do this, in fact. We pinpointed the exact behavior that is a component of the skill, right? Every skill, whether it's playing the guitar or being a quarterback or interviewing for a job, is made up of a chain, a sequence of pinpointed behavior. We got the current condition. We watched the baseline, right? How it's done today. Then I modeled, in some cases I modeled the behavior. Some cases I might not. If he identified it himself, great. We practiced the behavior. We got feedback. We watched it. He watched himself, and I told him that was terrific, right? He got positive reinforcement and feedback, and we practiced the whole chain of behavior, put the whole chain together. Now listen, we didn't talk about his confidence, did we? Did I change his confidence? When he watched himself back at the end of the hour, walking straight, sitting up straight, putting his arm, do you think he became more confident? Of course he did. Of course he became more confident. Rationally so. Because in fact, he is now more likely to get that job. And I'll tell you something, he's more likely to show up for a job interview because he believes now. He has faith. He has confidence that he can do this, right? Let me tell you something. That's the best hour any inmate has ever spent. I mean that sincerely. And every inmate in every prison should go through that training. It's not hard to do. It's very simple. But I'm coaching him, right? Now look at the coaching cycle. Look at the coaching kata. It's all there. All the steps, the making a positive assumption, pinpointing the behavior, looking at the current condition, giving feedback on the current condition, just like Mary's graph, right? Modeling the behavior if needed, right? Practicing the behavior, giving feedback on the behavior, right? Reinforcing, that whole cycle. That's it. That's coaching. It's not that hard. And it's not some great deep psychological thing. You can do this, and you can do this with your team, and you can do this with every member of your team, and with every manager in your team. Got it? Thanks. Practice it. Practice it with your wife or spouse. Practice it with your children. Practice it with your colleagues. And you'll develop the habit of doing that. Thanks a lot. Hope that helped.